So, if you've got any kind of eye on trans issues in the UK right now, you're probably thinking things couldn't get much worse. Well, let me tell you, they're getting worse. The UK media, especially the BBC, is one of the most transphobic institutions that I have ever seen. It's widely known and documented that the BBC has released so many transphobic articles over the last few years, it's almost hard to count. There's actually an article that you can read in Dazed that talks about how advocacy group ILGA Europe has documented the severe increase in anti-trans rhetoric in the UK media. And it highlights, and I quote, the serious damage that is caused by that rhetoric. I'll leave a link down in the description to that article. You can check that out on your own time. There is a contingent of middle-class British journalist TERFs who are dead set on ruining the lives of trans people everywhere. This includes Julie Bindel, Sarah Ditum, but you'll also be familiar with the name Maya Forstater. You'll also be familiar with the name Kathleen Stock, if you know anything about the turfery that is afoot in the UK. If you're watching this and you don't know what the word TERF means, holy shit, where have you been? The word TERF basically means trans-exclusionary radical feminist, but it would actually be more accurate to say feminism-appropriating reactionary transphobe, because that's all they are. As I mentioned in my video about Dave Rubin, a lot of TERFs seem to just despise women having a choice in anything, including surrogacy. And yes, there are definitely valid criticisms of surrogacy that you could bring about. However, the criticisms that TERFs bring about when it comes to surrogacy, they're not to do with exploitation under capitalism. They're just generally to do with implying that women have no autonomy over their bodies whatsoever. Not a very feminist position when I last checked what feminism was all about. Hello, it's Editing Muel here, so I just want to clarify what I mean by what I just said. I am well aware that there are some states and some countries where laws mean that women do not have bodily autonomy. What I'm referring to here is the widely known fact that TERFs seem to think that women are incapable of making decisions on their own will, which is of course a very patriarchal idea. Not to mention the disgusting article by Carolyn Lowbridge that used data that is not even accurate whatsoever. The data that they used was a poll of members of an anti-trans hate group and actually featured a cis woman rapist, known cis woman rapist, who had raped multiple women and also published basically a manifesto calling for the extermination of trans people. It's sickening. That's the levels of sickening bigotry that the BBC has sunk to in the last few years. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time that the UK media has done this. Endless articles of meaningless word salad about xenophobia, about Eastern European immigrants, Muslims, black people, and going further and further down the line, gay people. And let's not forget that this current media outrage about trans people is just basically recycled homophobia anyway. The long and short of it is that trans people wake up pretty much every day to see a new journalistic outlet that wants to see them dead. It's absolutely fucking sickening. Just some of the things that we've seen over the last few weeks are as follows. The UK government's equalities watchdog, the EHRC, has said that some transgender people could be banned from single-sex spaces. Single-sex spaces, that's a TERF dog whistle. Why? Because they say it all the fucking time to talk about locker rooms, changing rooms, bathrooms. The conservative right wing have always linked queer people to deviants. Now, where that comes from, I don't know. But let's just say when you see a Republican senator getting mad that trans people exist, don't check what they've been searching for on Pornhub. Anyway, I digress. It's kind of problematic to say that just because people hate trans people means that that's because they're absolutely fetishizing them in every way. Fetishization is its own thing, but let's face it, some people are just hateful pieces of shit. But the long and short of it is that conservatives have always seen us as deviants, not just trans people, queer people in general. You'll see with the no kink at Pride discourse that tenderqueers are talking about at the moment. If you don't know what a tenderqueer is, it's basically like a new version of what I was talking about in the Dave Rubin episode. It's like a pick me gay. Anyway, I'll probably do another video about that next week. But back to the matter at hand. This is the cycle that we see when it comes to homophobia and transphobia. The bathroom argument, the single-sex spaces argument, it all comes from viewing queer people in general as sexual deviants. They cannot see our identities as anything other than sexual. Think about how absurd the trans people in single-sex spaces argument is. TERFs are terrified of letting someone with a penis into a space designed for women. So what do they think about when someone lets their child, who is a boy, into a single-sex space? Like, what do they think about that? Of course, they don't mention things like this. What about when kids have to learn to use the bathroom and their parents have to come and help them, and their parent is not the same gender as them? What do they think about those situations? This is why it's so fucking absurd. The hatred that is being put on trans women is that they are rapists, and the hatred that is being put on trans men is that they are just confused lesbians. And it's fucking sickening. The problem with rape culture is the patriarchy and the way that the system puts men in positions of power. And this isn't to say that women can't be rapists, but of course these feminists don't actually look at the patriarchal structures which enable men to rape. They certainly don't look at how those patriarchal structures change how society sees trans women when they transition. Lots of my friends who are trans women have talked about how as soon as they started to get more femme in their appearance, that men started treating them in very different ways. There is, of course, the sexualization they experience and the fetishization. Can you tell how many takes it took me to get that word right? Fetishization. Fuck, what a word. Stupid fucking word for a stupid fucking thing. But there is also the experience that they have where men will just talk down to them and not take their opinions on things like media, sports, video games seriously anymore. Well, because they're a woman. And those are the structures of patriarchy that we should really be addressing as feminists. But TERFs don't exactly do that, do they? No, all they do is use their feminism identity as a mask for bigotry towards trans people and other queer people, even asexual people. One of the most absurd things I've seen in my life to date was when TERFs tried to make out that kids learning about asexuality, we all know what asexuality means, right? We know what that means, okay? Yeah, all right. It means when you are either repulsed by sex or you simply are not sexual in nature. You don't want to have sex, right? They claimed that kids learning about asexuality was grooming. Yes, that's right, grooming. Grooming to what? Like, not fuck anyone? Like, what are you talking about? Just another little cheeky insert from editing Muel here. Asexuality is a huge spectrum, and what I said might be seen as a little reductive, so I just want to add in that some asexual people do want to have sex. It's a whole spectrum. There's a pretty good, quick little video that you can check out by Psych2Go about asexuality, so go check that out. There's a link in the description below. Anyway, I've totally digressed from the point here, and I was reading from the EHRC thingy. So we have that single-sex space dog whistle in the article headline here, and the government's watchdog, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, is supposed to be the be-all and end-all of equality and human rights in this country. Imagine how, as a trans person, you would feel if you woke up one day to see this article. It is absolutely horrific. Sarah Ditum this week, more like Sarah Dickhead, has crafted this exquisite piece of nonsense for us all to look at and enjoy. In the headline itself, claiming that trans people are children and confused. Essentially, that's basically what she's saying here. The Times has also published this week a complete spread of anti-trans rhetoric. This is the same newspaper that in January 2022 had to issue corrections because of anti-trans misinformation. Julie Bindel, who I mentioned earlier, had an entire page dedicated to spiteful anti-trans nonsense. And of course, our great leader, Boris Johnson, said this.
I don't think that it's reasonable for kids to be deemed so-called Gillick competent to take decisions about their gender or irreversible treatments that they may have. I just don't. I think there should be parental involvement at the very least. That's the first thing. Second thing, I don't think that biological males should be competing in female sporting events. And you know, maybe that's a controversial thing to say, but it just seems to me to be sensible. And I also happen to think that women should have spaces which are whether it's in hospitals or prisons or change rooms or wherever, which are dedicated to women.
Wow, that's crazy. It's like he just said the thing that the TERFs have been saying about single-sex spaces. He just said, and also the Gillick competency comment is a TERF line as well. Quote-unquote irreversible damage that he mentioned. This is all TERF nonsense, by the way, that he's just repeating. And Sajid Javid has said that the NHS should follow the ruling that trans women be excluded from single-sex spaces. This has all come after the Tory government has U-turned on their conversion therapy ban. They basically said that they were going to ban it, but then they said they weren't going to ban it, and then they U-turned and said they are going to ban it, but not for trans people. Now, that sucks. Obviously, it sucks more for trans people. Trans people are going to be really on the receiving end of this. There are going to be so many stories of trans kids being forced to go to conversion therapy. It's heartbreaking. When you hear stories about conversion therapy and what it entails, what it entailed in the past and what it entails now, is just so sickening. And all for what? Just to make a couple of people in suits who shop at Waitrose more comfortable? Just to make people who have nothing to do in their middle-aged life, in their boring middle-class life where they have no movements to follow, they have nothing, no dreams, no aspirations, because they've got to where they need to be in life, they don't need anything else, so they're gonna take up this fight for feminism to make spaces safer for cis women. It's absolutely embarrassing. And here's a little thing about gender identity therapy, which is the form of conversion therapy for trans people. By the way, conversion therapy is absolutely torture. In the past, they used to give electric shock treatment to people. If you don't know about electric shock therapy, well, what they would do is they would put a rubber tube in your mouth to bite down on when the pain gets too much. They would stick electrodes to your head and fill you with fucking electricity like Frankenstein's monster, because that's what they thought we were. I don't know if that shit goes on nowadays. I wouldn't be surprised. Nowadays, it tends to take the form of more surreptitious ways of stopping you from being queer. But the long and short of it is that gender identity conversion therapy will actually be used against cis queers as well. So if you are a pick-me gay sitting in your cis white privilege thinking that this couldn't affect you or any other cis white gays, then you are fucking wrong. As you can see in this excellent tweet here, 42% of conversion therapy aimed at trans people is actually used on individuals who are not trans. Even though the government in the UK has excluded trans people from the conversion therapy ban, this hurts every single LGBTQIA+ person in the UK. Trans people in the UK are not okay right now. Hell, trans people all over the world are not okay right now. We've been seeing more and more anti-trans bills being passed in the States, Texas, Alabama, you name it. And of course the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Trans people everywhere are fucking terrified. And we, as their allies, need to do as much as we can to help them. So what can we do in the UK to help trans people? A bunch of LGBTQIA+ organizations have got together to make the website banconversiontherapy.com. You can actually use that website to send an email to your MP. We want to be absolutely snowing MPs under with emails about how we support trans people, and we want to see a conversion therapy ban all across the board. But that's not enough. We need to be showing up for trans people everywhere. There will be a protest going on in a city near you soon. I know as of today, Sunday, the 10th of April, when I'm recording this, 2022, there is a protest going on outside Downing Street today, or it's happened already. It's about 5 o'clock my time now, so I think it's happened a few hours ago. But you will be seeing similar protests happening all up and down the UK, all this week, all next week. Get down there, help your comrades, help each other, show trans people that you support them. Look out for local protests, local boycotts, movements, and direct action that are helping trans people in your area. There are loads of ways to find out this information. Obviously, because of operational security and just not wanting to get anyone in trouble, I'm not going to be posting any links or recommendations to protests that you should go to in this video, but you will be able to find them if you look for them. Make it a little task for yourself to do this week to spend an hour just looking for pro-trans protests in your area. Also, check out the link at banconversiontherapy.com. I'll be posting that in the description as well. And sometimes it just comes down to simple things like educating your other cis friends about this. If you're a cis person watching my video, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a bunch of cis friends as well. Generally speaking, cis-het people, they're not watching videos like mine. They're not watching left-wing videos. There's a lot of cis-het people out there who are just kind of liberals, you know, society serves them, so they just kind of like go along with it and do what they can. Obviously, I'm speaking about cis-het white individuals right now, but they aren't going to know about this stuff. Lots of cis-het individuals that I've spoken to about this actually don't even fucking know about the hateful rhetoric going on about trans people in the media. There's lots of millennials and lots of Gen Z people who just do not read the media, even some Gen Xers. And so they aren't going to be aware of this kind of stuff. So a lot of this stuff comes down to just talking to other cis people about trans issues and just going, hey, I'm just letting you know, this is a thing that's happening right now. And you can ask them to at least educate themselves, or you can help them get educated on trans issues. You know, my mum came to me this week when I was talking to her about this stuff, about the whole, oh, well, it just seems like there's lots of autistic people who end up being trans. Is that related? And of course, I hit her straight back with, listen, correlation doesn't equal causation, you know? That's a kind of TERF lie to say that people with autism don't have autonomy, and also that being trans is part of something that most people see as a terrible mental health disorder. So I fucking slapped that shit down as soon as it came out of her mouth. And it's important to remember to choose your battles when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, I'm joking when I said I slapped it down. It was kind of more of a easing her into the idea that this isn't what she thinks it is. One of the things that we have to remember is that reacting to takes like that with immediate disgust and calling people transphobes is not the way to go about it. Yeah, they have a transphobic opinion, but did they come to that because they are transphobic, or did they come to that because they have been told by transphobes? It's something that we really have to remember when choosing our battles about who to educate and who to leave in the bigotry pile. If you can sit down to someone and say, actually, no, the reason that people say this is because they're being transphobic, it's a bit of a lie, it's a bit of misinformation, and if they turn around and go, huh, I never thought of it like that before, okay, fair enough, that's someone that you made the right choice with. And you can continue to make the right choice in educating them further. But if you sit down with someone and you do the same thing and they immediately go, oh, you've just been brainwashed by the woke agenda, that's someone that you probably want to, like, never speak to again. You know? So listen, now you know what to do. Now you know how to support trans people. But remember, I'm just one guy. Don't just get all of your information from me. There are plenty of trans people that you can follow on Twitter who know a lot of stuff about this. My dear friend Sophie From Mars is an absolutely based trans individual who knows more than anyone I know about trans issues and what you can do to help trans people. Sophie actually organized an entire episode on Red Planet where we spoke about DIY HRT, which is something that we're going to see a lot more of happening if anti-trans bills start to bleed into the trans healthcare side of things. Trans people are trans. They're gonna want to transition, and if you take that away from them, they're gonna find ways to do it regardless. So please make sure you go and follow Sophie From Mars. Please go and make sure that you follow as many trans activists as you can. There's a couple that I will advise you against following. For example, Blair White that I mentioned previously, Debbie Hayton, she's part of the LGBT Alliance crowd. They just, like, honestly, like, they're a terrible person. Call themselves a man even though they're trans, and it's really disgusting. Definitely being utilized by the LGBT Alliance and TERFs in the UK. Stay away from that person. That's what being an ally is all about. Don't just agree with one trans person because they are reinforcing your transphobic beliefs or what you believed about trans people before. Listen to the trans community as a whole. If you want to go the extra mile and educate yourself about trans issues, check out this book, The Transgender Issue by Sean Fay. Sean Fay is a trans author, and she does a great job of explaining what the landscape is like for trans people in the UK at the moment. And of course, if you're trans and you're watching this, Please let me know if I've got anything wrong here or if I've misrepresented something. I'm trying to do my bit as an ally with a platform to help trans people and advise people on what they could do to be a better ally. All criticism is welcome. Thank you so much for watching another video. I really appreciate all of the support that I've been getting. Thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for all the new subs. We got to 2,500 subs last week. That's crazy. Thank you so much for helping me get to that milestone. Oh my god, that's just like a bit of fluff that's been on my head this whole time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I am holding you to account right now. If you watched my video last week on unions, I want to know, have you joined a union? Have you even researched unions in your area and seen if you can join any? I know there were a lot of cool people in the comments who were talking about how they needed help in deciding on what union to join, and I gave some people a couple of links. This comment here about being unemployed was absolutely fantastic. Of course, it is a absolutely valid concern that you might be unemployed, but you still want to join a union. And yes, unemployment unions are a thing, and you can join them. You can also support me on Patreon. Thank you so much to all my patrons who already support me. I can't believe I've got 13 patrons. That's absolutely crazy. Really appreciate all the love and support there. And of course, you can watch me on Twitch, where if you can't afford to be a patron, then you can donate to my PayPal via Twitch. It's where I make most of my money on needing to survive and pay bills and rent and stuff. So please come and support me on Twitch. It's fun. We talk politics. We play video games. You know, come hang out. It's cool. It's a cool little leftist place. Also, don't forget Red Planet. Now, the time for Red Planet is actually changing as of next week. It's going to be 8 p.m. and our wonderful host, Bad Bunny, has rebranded to Kira Chats. So you can now find us on the channel twitch.tv/Kira Chats. 8 p.m. UK time every Sunday. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for all the support. Mwah! Stay excellent to each other. Peace.